Hey everybody, so welcome to 2026 and also welcome to a brief little reseller chat that I thought we would have about the new year and about plans going forward in 2026. Now, if you turn on YouTube at this time of year, any kind of social media, actually most times of the year, the reseller niche can be frankly kind of exhausting, right? So there's plenty of resellers who are talking about the hustle, right? They're talking about working harder, working more, listing more, staying up late at night, getting up early, hustling harder, right? It can be kind of frantic. They have goals of 20, 30, 40, 50 listings a day. So, and I'm not knocking any of that, because if this is something you've chosen to do full time, if you're supporting a family, then that hustle is real, okay? There is a lot of work that goes into making this a full-time gig, okay? But if that type of energy, of that hustle mentality, if it's not possible for you, if it's not necessary for you, it can kind of be, like I said, a little bit exhausting and maybe a little discouraging as well. So I wanted to welcome you all to the Anti-Hustle Reseller Club. And in this club, we believe that you can still be a successful reseller without all the hype and without all the frenetic energy. I don't even know if that's the right word, because obviously success means different things to different people. It depends on your goals and your circumstances and all sorts of things. It can depend on your values and things like that. So for some people, reselling is just a fun side thing that they're doing, make a little extra money, some fun money, go on a vacation, things like that. It could be your second, it could be your third job, and you just don't have the time to dedicate to it, right? Maybe you're on disability, maybe you're retired, maybe there's certain things in your life that just restrict how much mental energy that you can give to this job. So I kind of got that idea, this idea about changing our mindset a little bit, right? So of course we still want to sell things. We wouldn't be resellers if we didn't. We wouldn't be watching videos like this if we didn't want to sell things. So we still need to do some work, right? We still need to work at this gig. But our mantra, my personal goal theme for 2026, let's say, is consistency, not burnout. Okay, that's kind of what I'm going to dial in on this year. So I'd like you all to consider my channel your safe space, your little quiet corner of YouTube, where we're going to encourage productivity. We're going to encourage working smarter, not harder. We're going to encourage consistency, okay? And no judgment, right? What was that thing a while ago on all those memes about we listen, we don't judge, okay? So feel free to tell your friends about this club, about my channel. At the very least, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed. So I hardly ever ask for people to do that, but I'm gonna this time. Okay, so what does this mean for this anti-hustle resellers club, or whatever we want to call it, for Pish Posh Reselling? What does it mean for us this upcoming year? We'll talk about that for a second, but feel free down in the comments, leave me a comment about your plans for your reselling business for this year, okay? So personally, I just want to say that I have felt, Mr. Pish Posh and I have talked about this, I've just kind of felt a little unbalanced with everything, okay? So a little bit disorganized. Things are just kind of a hot mess right now. Like I feel like we're really overdue for selling something that we can't find, or like we need to do an inventory audit. We need to go through things that just aren't selling. They were bad buys. Let's just clean them out and such like that. So I think I mentioned in a previous video, you may have seen it. And I think a lot of this has to do with the depression that I went through this past year. Side note, I did stop taking that medication. So my depression has gotten a lot better. You have to watch the whole other video to understand what's going on. But anyway, the depression, I'm sure, affected a lot of where we're at currently. Okay, so sourcing, as we know, it's a nice little dopamine hit. We joke about it, but going into thrift stores, it does kind of make you forget your problems for a bit. I felt a lot better. So I was sourcing, but then coming home and the follow through of listing, I wasn't listing as much as I probably could have during that time, right? So I feel like right now we're swimming a little bit in inventory. Our setup in the garage is it's not working. So Mr. Pish Posh, between his work that he's been doing and then just like his health issues and things, we've been like talking about how we want to get things set up and what kind of workflow would work better for us out there. We have some inventory clean out to do. He's got some visions of some like having specific stations out there. Like we could have a flatware station, some of our niches, our jewelry station. I don't know, that might stay inside the house. I'm not sure. But anyway, just things in specific places. So if you want to go list flatware, you have a space to do it. Maybe what you were working on is still there from the last time you were working on it. Things like that. Okay. So it's a big job. He wants to rearrange shelving and do all kinds of things. And so we kind of talked about like a 1 day a week, trying to attack that, like committing to 1 day a week of finding that time to do that and get that set up. It will require, like I said, cleaning out some items, some things that are bad buys, maybe listing things kind of lotted up instead of individually like I thought I would. But this also kind of goes into the next thing that I need to address this upcoming year is my sourcing habits. Okay. So definitely still have backlog. Sourcing needs to be a lot more intentional. Okay. And what I mean by that is, we have a lot of fun. When Mr. Pish Posh and I go to our clearance store, we have a lot of fun just picking up like random items that people wouldn't know would sell for good money, right? Or it's just kind of like you see it and you're like, oh, that's cheap. It's so cheap here. I bet I could get $10 for that. I bet I could get $15 for that. So what was frustrating Mr. Pish Posh was like, he comes home with this stuff and then he's like, oh, I've got to list this. And so he's like, but there's stuff on the shelves like flatware that I know will make us money. Like it's a guarantee, right? And he's like, we never have time to get to that because we're dealing with these little, like kind of inconsequential things that are coming in. So we're going to try to curb that a little bit. We're going to thrift more intentionally, pay more attention to sell-through rate. So we can go into that a little bit more, but basically not so much the fact has one of these sold, but how many of these have sold. Okay. Now we have to be balanced with this a little bit because we sell vintage, right? So you're not always going to have a whole list of comps or things like that can, let you know how fast this like random obscure item is going to sell, right? So a lot of that is just our gut, our experience. And honestly, that's what makes reselling a lot of fun for us. So we're gonna have to have a little balance on that. But I have had some experience with focusing more on sell-through rate with clothing. Okay, so I've noticed that the clothing that I've been bringing home and listing has been selling fairly quickly because I'm not just bringing home any bread and butter, oh yeah, that'll sell someday kind of thing. I'm focusing on style and brands and things that people are definitely looking for. Now, I'm not relying on clothing to be my only source of income, and so I can afford to do that, right? So if I did that in each of my niches, even in vintage, then I think we'd probably do a lot better. I don't have to buy it just because it's vintage, right? Okay, repeat after me. All right, so that's kind of one thing. We're trying to get organized. It goes in combination with our sourcing, trying to make our sourcing a little bit more intentional and a little bit more limited. I am not going to stop going to thrift stores. Every time I suggest that, Mr. Pish Poshes it, right? He says, no, you still have to go. And so I go, like we said before, I buy things for ourselves. I end up it's what makes reselling fun, okay? And it's what honestly keeps me motivated to keep listing. So I will continue to go, but I'm going to try to show a little more self-control in what I bring home, okay? Okay, so another part of what I was thinking of for 2026 is changing my mindset, and that has a lot to do with this whole idea for this club, this imaginary club that I decided to come up with or have been thinking about. I've honestly been thinking about like this whole concept for a lot of years, right? Just basically because I've seen that where the reselling YouTube kind of niche, it can be inspiring, but it can also be discouraging, right? And so I was like, I don't want my channel to be discouraging, like, oh, you have to do this and this, or you're not doing it right. There's so many right ways to resell, and it just depends on you and your circumstances. And so I just wanted, I want you to feel that you're getting something of value from this channel, but you're also not made to feel like you're not doing enough. Does that make sense? Okay, so part of what I was gonna say was is about mindset. Okay, I want to adopt a more accepting mindset of the fact that, okay, I maybe can't list 20 to 30 items a day. And that a big part of that is because I've made choices in my life. This is a discussion Mr. Pishposh and I have had recently. We could maybe, go all in, do the major hustle, but it would require giving up other things in our life. So I have made the choice to homeschool. We've made that choice to homeschool. I've made the choice to do volunteer work for half my week. So, well, not quite even that much, but anyway. And so because of that and balancing everything else besides any kind of health issues, it means that we're not going to be doing 30 listings a day, right? Unless I figured out some magic way to change my personality. So if I can be consistent, listing 1 to 5 items a day or whatever, I'm not going to beat myself up over that. All right. I'm going to accept it as where I am in my life right now this is what I can do. Okay, so if my listing is a little bit lower, it kind of circles back to that whole don't bring in so much stuff that starts to make you feel overwhelmed and that you can't get on top of everything, okay? Because I do that to myself too. So consistency, right? Consistency will be a big part of it, is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to commit to something, like I'll commit to things without a whole lot of pressure on myself. But, and I'm still working this out, but if I want to commit to, I'm going to do 5 items a day. Okay. I'm going to, and sometimes you don't have time to do a fresh listing. Maybe take an older listing that's been in your store for a while and just, refresh it, sell similar, kind of do something like that. eBay, a lot of these platforms, eBay, Etsy, Poshmark, they like activity, right? So if you can be active in your sites a little bit on a daily basis, that does go a long way. So it could be that maybe for a day I'll have a goal, I'm going to try to list 5 items today. Or if I know I can only list 1 or 2, then maybe I'll be more intentional about which ones I pick, right? Either a higher value item, so it's not something that's just sitting here worth money, but nobody's able to buy it. Or as I was just talking to Mace, Mr. Pishposh, and he was like, yeah, or something sells fast. Okay, so if you've had experience with something in the past, maybe it only sells for $15, but it'll go pretty quickly. Maybe focus on that for that day instead of, 5 or 2 or 3 big ticket items that might take a lot longer. Okay. So I have a feeling I'll be just kind of going back and forth with that. I'd like to play around a little bit more with a draft bank, is what it gets called sometimes. Basically, so if I have a day where I have a extended amount of time, I always feel like, ooh, I have this time, I'm listing, I'm in the zone, I list 10 items, right? And I'm all proud of myself. Now, I might be out of the house the whole day the next day, and I would struggle to get anything listed that day. So maybe I should just list the five of the items, put the other 5 in drafts, and then the next day launch those. And so then you've had activity for that day and you can go about your life and do other things. I know some resellers try to build up a kind of a bigger draft bank. It always feels kind of weird because you want, you're like, if you've done the work, you want it out there so that there's a chance of it listing. But I think overall, just having that consistent activity in your store is going to do a lot more good than a bunch of listings on one day. Okay. If you have experience with this, feel free to chime in. If you've had the opposite experience, feel free to chime in as well. So we're all just kind of learning and seeing what's best for us. Okay. So, I just got a sale. Poshmark, it just showed up. Yay. Okay. So, I did watch last year's video. My plans for 2025, my backlog, my feeling of like being behind. And I remember then I did a few videos of like thrifting in my garage, if you guys remember that. Watching that, I was kind of depressed a little bit, right? Because I made no progress in those 2025 goals. Actually, we're a little bit in a worse situation than we were at the beginning of 2025. So, but that's the point, right? That's the point of this anti-hustle club. There's going to be no judgment, and that includes judgment against ourselves, right? And so we're going to leave that behind. 2025 is behind us, right? I'm going to try to look forward and have just a calm acceptance of what I can do on a day-to-day basis. I know this is easier said than done, okay? But we're looking for balance. We're going to look for balance in 2026. Okay, so if you're still with me, let's talk about some other aspects of Pish Posh reselling. So, for example, YouTube. I do make a little bit of money with making these videos. It goes up and down as well, depending on how consistent I am. But, you constantly, again, YouTube, you have to constantly be working it in order to make any kind of consistent income with it. So hopefully, I'm planning on continuing. I'm planning on hopefully being consistent. That being said, February, I do have my surgery that I mentioned in that other video scheduled it's right at the beginning of February. And so you probably won't see me for a couple weeks in February, just to give you a heads up. So on YouTube, we're going to continue to lean into the research videos. We're going to, because I think really that's part of our sourcing intentionally, is knowing what to look for when we're out at the thrift stores, knowing what sells. Hopefully the what sold videos kind of help you with that too. We do a little bit of research, like this type of thing of this, like this kind of mug, don't bother, but this kind of mug, does well. That kind of thing I think is going to be part of all of this. I'll try to give you some updates on our organization, some behind the scenes, maybe a little bit more thrift hauls. I like doing those during yard sale season, although I could do a few more of our shopping our backlog. I can do those as well. So speaking of behind the scenes, I just wanted to share something quick with you if you're on Facebook. So I do have a page on Facebook. It's Pish Posh Reselling, and I'm going to put the link in the description here. And so on Facebook, I ended up getting monetized back at the end of September. So Facebook is a whole different animal than YouTube as far as monetization. There's no set, you have to have this many followers or this or this. I've been kind of networking with other content creators on there who are working towards monetization. And I got it early. I had very few followers on Facebook. And I think the reason I did get monetized that quickly is because of my YouTube channel. And because of the following I have on here, so thank you guys. And I was fairly active on Instagram and had some reels kind of do pretty well over there as far as views and things like that. So Facebook gave me monetization pretty early. And so it was right before our trip, I found out I was monetized. So I said, I'll just make some content, let's just experiment with this for a while, because, any other kind of like side, what do they call that? The brain is not working. I'm going to have to edit this. Passive income that that I can generate. Not that it's passive. It is still a lot of work, but you know what I mean, right? That kind of just helps our family, and it helps me be able to focus on some other things, right? Okay, so what I'm doing over on Facebook, and if you're on Facebook, I'm not saying go make a Facebook account to do this. I'm saying if you're already kind of frequent it, find my page and feel free to follow me. At this point, I'm hovering right around 600 followers. And then if you could just kind of engage with my content, and that's how Facebook is like pushing my stuff out to other people. Like so far, I've made like $6. Okay, well, I've made a little bit more. I haven't been paid out. So like I made $6. My first payout was like $6, $5.71 or something. And so this month I've made like $30, right? So it's a slow going. But all I'm doing, honestly, is just sharing little bits of reselling life, right? I'm sharing things that I see at the thrift store. I'm sharing things that I find that I'm buying. I share a little bit of what it's worth. So it's kind of a lot of information that's not necessarily worthy of being put in a video on YouTube. Like, I don't need to make a whole big thing about it, but and so I could also, let me know if you're not on Facebook, I could put some of that content over here on YouTube as a short, like my reels could be a short. It's just difficult because sometimes you use music that works on Facebook, but YouTube won't let you use that same music, and if it starts to get too complicated, then I just don't feel like doing it. But I can usually do my little Facebook posts like on the couch in the evening while we're watching some TV show and I don't have the mental energy for anything else. I can just make a quick reel of something I saw at the thrift store that day. And Facebook is wanting to pay people right now, so why not? Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about that. So that's YouTube, that's Facebook. Those are kind of little things that I'm planning, as well as the reselling business going into 2026. So let's sum up. This video is actually longer than I expected it to be, but we have made the Anti-Hustle Reselling Club. Maybe we should call it the non-hustle, anti-hustle, right? Because I'm not against people who hustle, okay? I'm not knocking people who do that. A lot of people have to, but our focus here is that subset of people who can't do that much or don't want to do that much, but still are interested in being successful as a reseller. So we're going to do what we can, not beat ourselves up. We're going to do it consistently. We're going to do it intentionally. We're going to set modest goals, right? I love that word modest. Modest means, it has to do with knowing your limitations. Okay, so that's a good thing to think about. Okay, what do you guys think? Leave me a comment down below. Do you want to be part of the club? I can make buttons. I don't know. There's a merch opportunity there, maybe. I don't know. I should think about this. When I was going to make this video, I was thinking all about like, because I'm always thinking about just different ways to expand things. And I was like, it's the new year, like if we're going to talk about consistency, do we need some kind of checklist or do we need some kind of, and I thought about making a planner and then, selling the planner and like all this stuff. And then I looked on Etsy and there's a lot of people who make really cool stuff on there already. And I know you all would support me, but then I realized it would stress me out way too much. So anyway, maybe we'll explore that in the future. But, for now, I kind of sometimes just do a piece of paper and a pen and I like make crosshatches or little marks. I did my 5 listings, right? So keep it simple. Okay, leave me a comment down below. Your plans for 2026, your thoughts, your ambitions, your goals, all that kind of thing. And I will see you soon. Hopefully I'll have a video coming out soon, kind of looking back at 2025, our top sales for the year. And then we'll keep going with some research videos. We'll talk to Mr. Pishposh a little bit more. That's in my plan as well, because he does have some reselling stuff going on that I don't talk about very much because I have enough to do to keep up with my own. So we'll talk about him and his eBay store and things like that. And anyway, that's the plan. And I hope you are having a great day and getting some rest and ready for the new year.